wonderful webinar about sugar and just how bad it really is. So what is this? This always happens. It's not me who does this. I'm just wondering what's actually going to happen on this webinar. That's something always happens in the background, like an alarm will go off or something, or will break a window. Dogs go mental every now and again. Something is bound to happen. So if you've got any questions at any point, guys, let me know. I'll answer them as we go. So we're going to start off basically talking about Sugar 101. Okay, so there's a few different types of simple carbohydrates or sugars that we need to know about. So glucose, i.e. things like Lucozade. This is what starchy foods like pasta, bread, rice are bread and rice are broken down into. It's fuel for the brain and muscles. It's our primary source of fuel for the brain and muscles. So we kind of need it. I mean, we don't need it per se, but it's preferred by the body. And then you have fructose or fruit, which is fructose, which is primarily found in fruit, and it's processed in the liver and helps keep blood sugar levels stable, which is quite important for appetite in most people, etc. Then you get sucrose or table sugar, which is one molecule of glucose and one of fructose together. So, the bads about sugar. It's hyperpalatable, which means it's really good to eat. So we like eating it. Our bodies like the taste of it. We like how it feels in our mouth, which is actually a thing. It's very easy to overeat, especially when combined with fat. I think donuts, ice cream, and cheesecake. And there was a study which was done ages ago. I watched it, and they basically did. It was a documentary, and I watched the most palatable food, which I think applies to me. They basically stuck some rats in with a cheesecake, which is 50% fat, 50% carbohydrate, and the rats could not stop eating it. They just ate and ate and ate at it, and it was interesting to see. I think that after that, I became a rat. They're not very satiating or filling, and can allow you to overeat when you're not hungry, especially in a liquid form, full fat Coke. So think about the calories or the sugars within Coke. You're not really gonna. You can't really switch. You're not going to switch off from drinking them. Personally, I can't stand the stuff. I hate normal Coke. It's way too sweet for me. Your appetite is taste specific. So every single person always says that they've got room for pudding, me inclusive. But generally speaking, I know people who have such small portions of food, but they'll always be able to get pudding in before they're full. And so most of us that are not that diligent about our diet could do with eating a little less sugar or less calories from sugar, because I think there's this whole thing about the sugar tax at the moment, and Alan and I are kind of. He says it's good for people. I say I'm not so sure, but in that I think it's a little misleading and a little bit silly, really. I think we could do with a tax on sugar is kind of a bit. It's not going to change anything by making things more expensive. There's so much to have in that conversation, but I just don't think it's going to make a big difference. So therefore, I think it's a little bit pointless. It doesn't stop kids using their dinner money on the way home to go and buy crap from a co-op. That's a tax is not going to make a difference on that. Does it make you fat though? And here is the big thing. A lot of people, we talk about clean eating. This links into clean eating. Is sugar bad for you, etc. So. Tax doesn't stop people smoking either. No, like the average price of a pack of cigarettes is nearly a tenner. When I was 18, I smoked, not properly actually. I thought, my whole family do, and I'm the only one who doesn't really. But it was like $3.50 or something. It's 10 quid to smoke a pack of fags, which It's just insane. $2.99, yeah. So I think you're not too much off, and you're in Scotland, so it's going to be a little bit cheaper up there. It's absolutely outrageously expensive in terms. It's not outrageously expensive. It's good that it's that pricey. It's just nuts that people are prepared to spend that amount of money. But 20, 30, 40 fags a day. But does it make you fat? I think we all know the answer's coming, don't we? So is sugar fattening? So there was a study done by Western Deloy, I think that's how you pronounce it, in 2001, which they put two groups of dieters on a 600 calorie a day deficit. So if you've watched the previous stuff, you'll know that the most important thing about losing body fat is being in a deficit. Yes, health needs to be considered. However, it's healthier to be leaner within reason, so not too lean, than it is to be obese, etc. And it's important to understand that. So two groups of dieters were put on a 600 calorie a day deficit. Group one had a low sugar diet, so less than 5% calories from sugar. And group two had 10% of their calories from sugar. And there was absolutely zero difference in weight loss, which is what we keep saying. So studies even aside, we say this sort of stuff all the time, yet people still believe sugar's bad for you. I mean, there is a caveat to that, but ultimately, sugar isn't bad for you. It's not going to make you gain weight in itself. And it says there that these results provide no justification for the exclusion of added sucrose or sugar in weight-reducing diets. So Serwit et al. In 1997 put 20 overweight women on a 6-week diet. They had the same protein, fats, and carbohydrate. The sugar is just carbohydrate, guys. So group one had 43% of calories from sugar, 120 grams, and group two only had 4% of calories from sugar, 10 grams, and they had the same or equal significant reductions in weight and percentage of body fat. So, even the science is there, guys, and this is where people, they get, no, that can't be right, that can't be right. But this is where your body, it's where people think that they're different and they're just not. You get occasional anomalies, but ultimately we're all pretty much built the same. So we therefore conclude that the use of sugar in a weight loss regimen is unlikely to cause problems for the average patient as long as total energy intake is restricted. So a calorie deficit, like magic. It's that calorie deficit, bro. Is it toxic to our body? So for an 80 kilogram man, so that is somebody who's 20 kilograms less than me, you'd have to consume 6 pounds of sugar a day, or nearly half, or in one go, nearly half a stone of sugar. However, a salt is 0.6 pounds would be enough to kill a man. If you're exercising regularly, you don't need to worry about that. But as it states there, like the devil is in the dose, and that's the same as everything. If you have 2 paracetamol, the likelihood is you're going to be fine. If you have 100 paracetamol, you're probably going to die. Fruit sugar or table sugar is still sugar. Whilst one may come with slightly more micronutrients, they will be treated the same within the body. And this is where I think people are getting a bit confused. So you've got all these new diet experts who tell you have to eat like this and you have to eat like that, and avocados are better for you, etc., etc. But actually, they don't understand how the composition of nutrients are made up, compositions of food are made up, and how your body processes those nutrients. They just see things black and white. They just go, that's green, therefore it's good for me. That's a McDonald's, therefore it's bad for me. You'll see all this clickbait crap that gets put out with absolutely no evidence behind it, and yet you believe it because it looks like, oh God, that looks believable. But these people haven't got any kind of credentials behind them to say what they're saying. They're just trying to get you to buy the business, spend money with them, and that's what's disgusting about it, really. So is sugar bad for your health? Have I clicked on too far? No. So is sugar bad for your health? Controversies about sugars results from systematic reviews and meta-analysis on obesity, cardiometabolic disease, and diabetes. So basically, as with what we've been saying, the answer is no, as long as it's within reason. So the potential for overconsumption of sugars in the form of sugary foods and drinks makes targeting sugars as a source of excess calorie a prudent strategy. So yes, you can remove them, and this is why I guess the sugar tax, where somebody like Alan thinks it's a great idea, can be quite beneficial. I'm not so sure. But however, sugar content should not be the sole determinant of a healthy diet. Exactly that. So, excluding sugar because you think it's bad for you actually is kind of a bit bullshit, really. In fact, it's not a bit bullshit. It's massively bullshit. Now, if you're 30 stone or something like that, then maybe cutting some sugar intake, or diabetic, quite important. Maybe cutting some of that sugar down is going to be quite vital to progressing. But for most people, it can cause major problems excluding food groups because they end up binging or feeling restricted, and the psychological side of it can come into play. But there are many other factors in the diet, some providing excess calories, while others provide beneficial nutrients. So there are sugars in fruits, guys, and restricting fruit is a bit stupid for the most part. At some points, it can be viable to do so, but you've got to think about the bigger picture. Rather than just focus on one energy source, we should consider the whole diet for health benefits. Dun, dun, dun. Don't look at the big picture, guys. Just look at the small thing. Is sugar bad for health? So sugars, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. They basically looked at, so these were in controlled trials, they looked at the link between sugar consumption and a range of health-related issues, such as the list below, which are energy-regulating hormones, obesity, CV disease, diabetes, accumulation of liver fat, neurologic responses. And the findings were that data from these sources do not support linkages between sugar consumption at normal levels and there you go, there's the key, at normal levels within the human diet and various adverse metabolic and health-related effects. Which means that this is where, again, people get confused, and I think I need to touch on this, which is everybody thinks that their portion control is too big, or their portion size is too big, or they eat too much of something, or they don't eat enough of something. And it's based on an opinion. So whilst opinions are important within reason, generally speaking, our opinion on nutrition doesn't really count. And it's difficult to hear when you sit on the end and you're thinking, hang on a sec, you're saying that I'm not important. No, what we're trying to say is that your kind of preconceived ideas around what's real, what's good, what's bad are often a bit skewed based on some sociological and psychological influences. We use a fictional character called Sue from Accounts, who thinks that she should be doing this on a weekly basis. And ultimately, she hasn't got a bloody clue. She's just, she's just kind of pissing in the wind and hoping it's going the right way. Opinions are important, but ultimately the most important thing is looking at the facts. What are the facts? Working out and learning and educating yourself, and then basing things off of that, basing your future from that. So if our current body of evidence states you can have this much sugar in your diet because that ticks those health boxes, it's not going to affect you negatively, then that's a good thing. Now, that said, if you've got really terrible habits for the most part and you can't stop yourself binging on sugars, like sugar, such as, when I say sugar, I mean things like hyperpalatable treats such as strawberry pencils, which if they are in the house, they are gone. I will have them. If nobody knows what a strawberry pencil is, you need to GTFO, or you can ask me what one of those are. But basically, they are amazing. But it's a very sweet kind of treat type food, which you shouldn't base your diet on, but you can absolutely have them within the diet as long as your diet's calorie controlled. You tick those boxes, and there's the key, isn't it? So sugar is neither good or bad, but beyond its calories has little nutritional value. So obviously it doesn't really do a lot for us. It can do great stuff in endurance, exercise, etc. Can be really quite useful, but for people who are trying to lose fat, you can have it. It's not dangerous. It's not going to cause you any problems, but ultimately it's not going to keep you full. So therefore it's quite easy to eat too much of it. And if they cause you to overeat, which is quite easy to do, like I just mentioned with those strawberry pencils, then you'll gain fat, which is pretty straightforward. So a lot of us, including me, so I've got empty packets of Haribo here because I'm willpower is not something to rely on. But many of us would do well to replace some of the sugar in our diet for more filling and satisfying options, and which is what I allude to at DMF is everybody focuses on clean eating, or I need to eat sauces and all this kind of stuff. But what they're not doing is they don't know how to make themselves full with quality food, and there lies the problem. When consumed within your calorie budget, sugar can be enjoyed as part of your diet. So, I'm going to use an anecdotal piece of evidence, which is me. I'm going to be real self-centered here. So in the past 3 weeks, I've got so much leaner. I can see visible abs, which is the first time probably all year. What's changed? Well, I'm still eating sweets. I like sweets. I'm still eating chocolate. I'm eating a lot less processed junk food or outright junk food, but I'm still having it. I am focusing on the bigger stuff, which is going to bed early, making sure I have plenty of high protein meals, not relying on caffeine to get me through the day, not slipping into silly habits. But I'm still having sugar. I'm still having strawberry pencils, chocolate bars, going for smaller chocolate bars when I want them, but not as many of them. And you can, and I'm no different. And in fact, I probably have a lot worse habits than a lot of the guys. But there's some anecdotal evidence that you can. But removing trigger foods from your home if they cause you to overeat. Food environment is massive. You've got food. I think one of my biggest bugbears, and bearing in mind I do have a child, and no, she's not with me all the time, but when she's here, we don't go, we're just going to buy loads of sweets and biscuits and chocolate because the kids want them. I'm not that sort of hardcore bodybuilding PT who goes, your kids don't need them, therefore you shouldn't, that's a, but honestly, that is probably the worst excuse I think I hear, which is my kids moan if they don't have biscuits in the house. Who are the parents? The parents are the ones who should be dictating what the kids have to eat, not the other way around. And I think, and there lies the problem with the obesity crisis, really, is that, oh, well, you can't tell me what to have for my children. Well, I'm not. But why do your children tell you what they're having? We don't have biscuits, and we don't have, Beth will have a pizza when she's here, and that's fine. I have no control over what she eats at her own house with her mum, but I do have a control here, and I do feel that we all do make excuses. I've been making it with training, but I think that is one of my biggest bugbears is failure to remove trigger foods from your home, no matter what the excuse is one of the biggest things. So that people don't or not prepared to do. But ultimately, there are foods which people find difficult to not eat when they're there. And if that's the case, get rid and don't make excuses. So that rounds it up, guys. So that is sugar in a nutshell. I'd love some questions from you all because everybody goes, we've got one. Yay. My kids moan whether we have biscuits or not, so no biscuits in the house. Exactly that, Kate. And I think when you boil it down, there's so many people who kids are kids, aren't they? If they're, I don't know. I just don't think that parents should bow down to their kids' wants and desires all the time, because ultimately that's what just makes them spoiled brats. I think, a lot of us can say, well, my parents didn't let me have biscuits every 5 seconds and we turned out okay. But also at the same time, restrictions are pretty stupid thing. I don't restrict Beth, but I just don't see why we feel the need to buy loads of junk food for them. And then they won't eat bloody vegetables at the same time. Beth drives me nuts with vegetables, but she has to eat them. We don't force feed her stuff, and we don't make her eat just like plain broccoli. We'll hide things in her food. So Becky says, for me, the easiest thing to cut out is sugar, so the calorie count comes down. Well, and, you know, when you look at it black and white, and you can say they're not very filling. So calories from, you know, like the more processed or simplistic types of foods, they are calorie dense and they don't fill you up as much as the other sugars. Yeah, sugary things have higher calories, absolutely. And if you look at it from that perspective, like sugar isn't bad. It's not something you have to eliminate from your diet, but you can bring them down, and loads of people benefit from bringing them down if fat loss is a goal or body composition a goal. But what we're saying is you don't have to eliminate it, but it certainly is not the enemy. Any other questions or input, guys? I think something else to touch on as well is a lot of people say that they struggle to not eat sugary treats and stuff, and it's because they don't manage their appetite properly. So what that means is look how difficult. So I don't know if I can't remember if we covered sleep, but I did a sleep series and how poor sleep length and quality can impact appetite and choices, and it basically and glucose metabolism, so how you metabolize sugar, and it can make sleep is just number one there, and then obviously food choices and food quality does affect it. So making sure that you're relatively consistent with nutrition. Does body process sugar differently? It depends. So it depends. So you have, you know, if you're insulin sensitive or insulin resistant, the way that you process carbohydrate can be different. So those who train, those who train regularly, they sleep well, they eat adequate protein, they're calorically controlled. They will process glucose better than somebody who sleeps poorly, won't they don't train that regularly, they don't move a lot, etc. They will process carbohydrate very differently to the others. So yes, your body does, and sleep is the big one. So there was the Wisconsin sleep study, which was done years ago. I can't remember how long ago it was, and they studied how glucose metabolism was impacted. And one of the biggest things was obviously poor sleep quality and length. So anything under 7 hours, and that's not just 7 hours one day. It's 7 hours regularly can massively impact glucose metabolism, but it also massively impacts appetite. So your appetite hormones, leptin and ghrelin, the main two, out of a fair few of them, are completely, I don't really know what the terminology would be, but deregulated, or they would just be impacted. So they would go the way that you don't want them to because of poor shit sleep, and people don't focus on sleep hard enough. But if you just think back to the last time you had a really shitty night's sleep, what happened with your food the next day? How hard did you find it not to rely on caffeine and junk food just to get you through the day? Adam Ali gave a great analogy in regard to the sugar is addictive argument. Take the biggest mixing bowl in your house, fill it with sugar, grab a spoon and start eating. You'll soon find out that it's not addictive. Yeah, it's not, and you're right. And if you've got kids around, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to mute or tell them to bugger off. 5 seconds before this next bit. Hope you're not easily offended, gang. Drop off. I'll give you another 5 seconds. Drop off if you don't want to hear something quite rude. Sugar is not addictive. You don't see many prostitutes selling their bodies to crave their sugar addiction. There you go. Actually, that was kept relatively clean. Leanne said, those of you who want to hear a bit of a ruder version, tell me. Leanne said, I find having a small amount of sugar is a trigger for stepping into other bad habits. Yes, but I would say that's because routine is not created in the first place. So I struggle to eat sensibly, and if I don't focus on other stuff like sorting my routine out, my routine it was nuts until recently, and I was just like, this is crazy. I can't keep doing this. And I've changed things around. I've made sure I start training a bit better. Um, Making sure I go to bed at a reasonable time, forces the issue rather than, like I said, I keep saying this, I'm not looking for people to give me a pat on the back or a well done or aren't you special, because it's not like that. I'm not fighting on the front line of bloody Afghanistan or anything like that. But ultimately, this is, my job or my business is really busy. I'm working non-stop to try and grow DMF and everything. And give really good support and all that kind of stuff. So I'm always doing stuff, but we're all busy, aren't we? And I think that, you can let things overtake and stuff. But if you prioritize everything else over your health, then you'll just end up round and round, going round and round in circles. So trying to, I think, like you said there, Leanne, changing routine is key, and making sure that routine stays. So Kate said, when I'm tired, I crave sugary stuff and junk food. So does everybody, Kate, generally. There aren't many people who do not. So, this is where we say, in the nicest way and the way it's intended, which is you're not special in that respect. So when you're, a lot of people feel like they're failing or they're a failure because they can't stop you. They really want that. It's not them that's the problem. It's their habits. It's their routine around sleep. Why are you not sleeping properly? What's the reason? Are you letting work beat you? Work often beats me. Friday morning, I woke up at 4 a.m. thinking about work. I was annoyed. It was annoyed me, but I couldn't get back to sleep. Friday was tough. Luckily, I went out mountain biking in the afternoon, so I did 8 hours of work, and then I went out mountain biking, came home, and then went to the pub. Lol. So Seb said, with sugar and increased insulin response, does the post-sugar crash cause you to feel more hungry? Is that a myth? Yes. Don't quote me on it because Alad will have my eyes out. But yes, ultimately, but it's not really down to insulin, but it is down to blood sugars and stuff like that. So making sure that, which is why we say, and that's not in everybody, and this is why it's a bit grey. But yes, but this is people not managing their intake over the day can make a big difference to your appetite throughout the day. So yes. Agree about the routine. Never had a sweet craving till menopause set in. Hope it goes when it's all over. Maz, you don't sleep well, so that's rubbish, I'm afraid. I would say sleep has a bigger impact. You don't go to bed at a reasonable time, so therefore, and I know that's mean. You might think it's mean, but I've been bollocking you for nearly 2 years. So until you finally listen to me and do as you're told, I will be rude, because I can be, because it's you. I felt shit the other day, had bad headache and tired, had a chocolate biscuits and felt a lot better. So just the calories and carbs, both. And your fueling was off that day, yes. But why was it off that day? This is what I say. What you do on a Monday, what you do on a Tuesday with fuel, with food, with glycogen, with your appetite, calorie intake, caffeine, sleep, can affect what you do 4, 5, 6, 7 days later, which is why consistency is important. You can't expect to be black and white with stuff all the time. This is where people are wrong. They go wrong because they go, I'm good today. I was bad. I had a crap night's sleep today. I had a good night's sleep today. It's what you do over your entire life. People just look at things just too black and white. Nobody is perfect on a day-by-day basis. It just doesn't work that way. You'll get you'll get old, Hunter Welly woman at school where, she seems like she's perfect at everything. She makes jam to bring in for the kids and, she's got 43 children and 17 dogs. Hunter Welly's in a Land Rover and everything looks hunky-dory in her life. Well, that's great. But you get the odd one, but 99 out of 100 people just aren't like that. She's probably got a hand-me-down house from her parents in 1986, but, most of us didn't get that. So most of us have life stresses and all that kind of stuff, and our kids can be can be a knob, and they get stressed out. They don't want to come home from school and make jam with them. So we have these kind of normality things, and things get in the way. But making sure that you get routine. I go on about routine all the bloody time because it's so important. For example, I know every Monday I have to do this because I've committed to it. I do go to bed early, but I just don't sleep. Get a book and put the iPad down, Maz. So Andrew said, I know to my detriment what happens when you don't look after yourself. Long hours, rubbish, food and no sleep equals crap immune system and hospital. Not just you, Andrew. Yeah, absolutely though. This is, it's key, isn't it? I mean, we're only here one time. We don't want to be spending time in hospital just because, we're not prepared to take care of ourselves. So I think it's important, yeah, I mean, we're all guilty of it though, Andrew. I think this is the thing, it took me 4 months to go to the doctors and hospital, and it's all good though. So, but it takes that one thing, doesn't it? So it's important. These webinars keep me up past my bedtime. And Andy, bang on the money, mate. It's 20 to 10. I'm in. See you later, guys.